Hello and welcome to the Best Umpire Show, where you learn to become the best umpire you can be by improving your skills and connecting with other umpires. Here's your host and fellow umpire, Andy Traub.
Hey friends, I'm honored to have an esteemed guest today. And yes, Bob, you are esteemed because you hold a position that a lot of people would love to have. And sometimes you have it and you realize, like, did I really want this? Because you get a lot of heat from people, I think. And you are a member of a rule committee. So first, Bob Leader, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you being here. And if you could just kind of tell us, what is your role within NFHS and how'd you get there?
Okay. This is my 50th year, Andy, of officiating. I've been the Virginia High School League rules interpreter for going on 25 years now, and was president of a number of associations in the greater Richmond area umpiring. And our associate director from Virginia High School League, Tom Dolan, was the chair of this committee 4 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm the only person that represents the officials on the committee.
Of the committee that we're going to talk about today.
Yep.
You're the only
I am
one?
one of 11 members. There's a coach that represents all the coaches.
Okay.
There's an umpire who represents all the officials.
Okay.
The other 9 are associate directors of state organizations.
I don't want to go sideways in the first 2 minutes because we were getting along so well. But I know we're on the same team here, but I'm kind of unclear. Who are the other 9 representing? Schools?
No, yeah, the schools that are part of their state association or their section. If you look in the rulebook, there are sections across the
Okay. So they're regional representatives.
Yeah. So
interesting. Okay.
In only one vote, there's I think 2 or 3 that actually have some umpiring experience in those. In those state associations.
Listen, folks, I promise we're going to keep it positive, but we just got to call it what it is.
Yeah.
We have 1 umpire representative and 1 coach representative, and then 9 regional representatives for a rule book.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to take that at its best. And Bob, I'm going to begin my interview by telling people to listen to another interview. My dear friend Patrick Farber from Umpire Classroom, who is a phenomenal umpire, is a great teacher. I call him the professor, Bob. He's like the professor of rules. He breaks it down and makes it simple. He's like a wise professor, but he makes it simple enough that a kindergartner like me could understand it. So listen to that interview. Go to umpireclassroom.com or go find his channel and listen to a great interview. And so we're going to talk about these rules that are proposed for the upcoming year. But I want to start with some more interesting stuff. Not that this isn't interesting stuff, but you get to be part of a rules committee. How long have you been on this NFHS rules committee?
This is my 4th year.
Okay.
And my last year. It's a 4-year term.
Okay. Can you get reelected?
Pardon me?
You're renominated, reelected, re-chosen?
No.
They rotate you
I
off.
know of.
Interesting.
Not that I know of. It's a once in a lifetime. And many years ago, I mentioned to Tom Dolan as I was down at a state basketball championship, and we met pertaining to clinics that I was going around the state to do. And ultimately, I think my goal would be to be on the rules committee. And as I'm done with that, I'd probably retire. Little did I know that the good Lord would put it in that.
Boom. He's always listening, Bob. Be careful what you say, man.
Yeah.
Careful what you say.
Yeah.
Or be wise in what you say.
Yeah.
All right. So we have to live with the reality that we have a rule book, and that you and I met because we're part of this phenomenal Facebook group. I don't remember the name of, and it's called NFHS something, but
Baseball umpires.
NFHS baseball umpires, 17,000 people in there.
Yeah.
Some of them are angry every day, and they tell us about it on their keyboard, using their keyboard.
And at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, at 10 o'clock at night. You have to always have the timestamp.
Yeah.
But there's 12, probably eight admins on that group. They do a phenomenal job trying to police it, and a lot of those are really good at rules. You jumped on there and said, hey, I'm part of the rules committee. I represent you all. Give me your feedback. I know you got a bunch of feedback, and we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to start with some interesting stuff because it's a unique opportunity that as an umpire, I get to talk to someone who gets to be part of a rules committee. So I'm curious if you could share maybe some out on the edge stuff. So as an example, what's a rule that you thought there's no way that's going to get passed on first try and it did? And you were like, wow, that's surprising. And then we'll do a couple other kind of edge ones. So what's a rule that you were really surprised it passed quickly, easily, or whatever?
Very quickly, it was one of the two from last year.
Which was?
Pine tar on the bat.
Okay.
Now, Federation.
Let's revisit the rule for folks who don't know. It can't be above 17 inches. What is
17 inches, correct.
And the width of the plate is?
17 inches.
Hey, what do you know, folks?
Hey.
How do I measure that? Let's use, I don't know, let's look. Oh, look, a plate.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't have to carry a yardstick with you.
But I'll say in Little League, I let them have 24 inches because that's how big my plate is. And I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. And if the team's up by 9, the pine tar gets 24 inches.
Absolutely.
That's how big my strike zone is. No,
absolutely. But that surprised me last year. And
why?
Because, they do a nice job of sending a questionnaire. I don't know if you're familiar with the process.
Yeah. Patrick Farber sent a video out about that. And I sent it to a bunch of private message to a bunch of umpires. But everybody listen, do what Bob said. Fill that thing out when you get it. It's awesome.
The problem is nobody is. Several years ago, I made this. And after my first year on the committee, I really started looking at the questionnaire because they do a nice job. They give us
it's great
data on how what ends up and everything. This pine tar rule, just about 90% of coaches and 90% of umpires said that it is rarely an issue.
And it passed.
It got passed 11-1. I was the only dissenting vote.
And your reason for dissenting was?
I'm not going to pick those
all right
kind of issues.
Part of it is
I'm not going to pick those issues with kids.
Oh, I see. You're like, I don't want to get into it. That's not another issue I want to deal with.
That coach told me that bats were illegal.
Yeah.
And I'm going to believe him.
Yeah.
Now, if it was an illegal bat, I would have to take a look at that. But for me, I don't know that pine tar is an issue. But that was one that was just goofy for me.
Yeah. And it is what it is, right? The law has been passed. What's one that you were really proud of?
Hasn't happened yet. But I hope the player-to-player conferences, that they get some kind of
restraint
on them.
Okay, let's talk about what is the problem. And again, I just assume that people come in from all over the place and experience and knowledge. Let's talk about what is wrong with the current situation. Why do you think it's broken? What is the current situation? What is the rule on player conferences?
There is no restriction.
There is no rule.
It's unrestricted.
We could use the next hour looking for the rule and not find it.
And the really challenge is because of game length, pace of play, we are losing a lot of good umpires who are maybe D3 college umpires, but they're excellent high school officials. They'll go work a D3 game in the afternoon somewhere and have a 7:00 high school game.
Oh yeah, that's a good high school umpire. Yeah,
high school game will not end till 10:30 when it started at 7, and they've had 13 player conferences. And when you think of baseball, in other sports, in football, you maybe get 4 timeouts. In basketball, maybe 4 or 5. In baseball, legitimately, because of every half inning, you could consider a timeout.
Yeah. Yep.
Defensive conferences, 3. 7 offensive conferences. You could literally have 22 to 24 timeouts in a 7-inning ball game from both teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
What sport does that?
Yeah. Baseball does. Yeah. And that's why the games are so stinking long.
Yeah.
You know what? Here's an interesting thing too, from a game management perspective. If a guy, his pitcher's getting rocked, he wants to switch him. I get it.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand that it's added 5 minutes to my day, but his pitcher's getting rocked. He's got to switch him out. I get that.
Sure.
But the other thing is sometimes, or if a catcher calls time because I need to go talk to my pitcher because I'm calling these pitches and he's not, we're not on the same page and we need to be on the same page. I get that. What's hard is you don't really have a reason to say no to them, even if you feel like, dude, you don't need to. Yeah. And sometimes I have just said, no, can I go talk to my, no, just come here, which I really shouldn't probably do, I'm guessing.
Yep.
I don't have a rule to...
You don't have anything to stand on.
No, I don't. And so hopefully they just go, okay. I've never done that in high school. I've done that in travel games. I've never done that in high school.
Yeah.
But so the advantage to this could be, shortens it. disadvantages they may take more because we make a point of it.
There's two proposals right now.
Okay.
The one proposal is, and I think either one of them could work. I lean towards the other until I hear more comments, but the one that's out there is that you're eligible for 6 charge conferences, 3 with a coach to the defense and
Okay.
3 player to player.
Now, the pitcher switch not count?
Pitcher switch does not count.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So you'd have 3. On the 4th one, you could change, and that doesn't count. That would be the coaches. And then, but every one after that, if he doesn't, he's going to have to switch out because he's already had his 3 coach to players. But what it does, it limits the player to player conferences to 3 in a 7-inning ball game. The other proposal is to go just like the offensive teams, 1 per inning for a defensive player to player conference.
And those by rule are how long, Bob?
The
How
conference
long are the conferences?
till they come back into the position or leave the circle of the pitcher's mound.
What's your opinion on how long a conference should be?
If they need to be out there a minute and a half, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk out to them. I'm not going to say anything, but they're going to know I'm there.
Sure. What percentage is the umpiring question? What percentage of conferences what percentage of timeouts have been called conferences where the entire purpose was because they wanted to talk to you? The coach wanted you to come out there. You know what I'm talking about?
Minimal.
Oh, for me, minimal too.
Yeah.
I learned this the wrong way, which was like, my partner was like, dude, the reason they called that was because that guy wanted to chew your tail.
He wanted to talk to you about something.
Which, I was like, why is that taking so long? He's because he wanted to rip you a new one, dude. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
So I would stay back then.
That's what I learned, Bob.
Just to force him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to
like
force
walking into the mouth of the beast, right?
Yeah. So if you announce that they get 1 player to player conference an inning, games could go longer.
Could be.
That's scary.
I found the players to be pretty quick. Coaches can take a while, but players are generally pretty quick. So that's when you're hoping passes for the speed of the game. I like that.
Yeah. And there's some other ones in there that, I'm getting mixed reactions on the double first base.
So let me take a couple angles at that. No pun intended, because we're getting another angle, right? With the double bag. But I think there are some people that just automatically dismiss it. I think there's these groups. One is those groups who just automatically dismiss it because they're like, it's weird. The big orange bag, it's softball does that. We're baseball.
Bingo.
The game's not changed. Why are we doing this? Are we going to add a 4th base? Are we going to add, we had, there's just that purist argument. Okay.
Yep.
Then I think there's an argument that it complicates things because you saw it, I don't know, last month or so. I don't know, I think it was, what was it that somebody tagged?
The SEC has it in their games, and
something happened where a guy tagged I don't know what. Do you remember what happened?
I don't, but I think I heard about it, that they touched the orange bag and they said that was not eligible for that particular situation.
I think he was going back to first, and he went around and he touched it.
They
tagged him, and he's like, I'm touching the bag. They're like, you're touching the wrong one.
Yep.
And the purists would say that's why you should only have 1 bag.
And I think there was an interpretation that came out from Elliot Hopkins, head of the Baseball 4 Federation, an interpretation of running lane interference.
Okay.
And I think the choice of words for this double first base is that it will help eliminate that problem.
Okay.
Running lane interference, because you're running down first base, you're in foul territory, and you have nothing to step on except the base in fair territory.
Fair.
That's where you have the issues. So
I would have used the word minimize, not eliminate, because
that risk minimization.
So here's another school. Another school with a double bag is just pure the safety argument. It's yes, it might confuse people, but ultimately we are giving people roughly twice as much space in an area that gets very crowded.
Yep.
And I also think that it would minimize. There's some maliciousness that can happen where you could step on, you're out, but you're going to step on that first baseman's leg or foot. And there's also just stuff that's no one is intending to do anything towards anyone malicious. I had this 2 weeks ago where a kid just happened to kind of stumble into the first baseman and the coach came out and said, man, and he knocked over the first baseman. He said, man, how do you not call malicious contact? I said, there was contact. I didn't think it was malicious. If it was, I said, coach, if I thought it was malicious, that kid's gone. I got a really quick malicious trigger personally, but it can't, I think it makes malicious contact even more obvious because you're like, dude, you had a whole nother bag to step on and you ran into the guy still. What are your thoughts?
And I don't disagree with that, but you know, in all the rules that are here and proposed for next year, it only deals with the batter runner coming down to first base. It does not deal with the defensive player shifting from the white bag over to the orange bag because of a throw taking him that way.
So is it green? Green. Let's add another color. Pink, yellow. Is the orange bag, is it an out if they step on the orange bag? Bob, you guys have to decide this stuff. We're looking for your help.
From what I've read so far, only one spot does it ever say anything about the fielder can use the orange bag on this play or on that play.
And what is that?
It doesn't say a normal play. Drop third, strike, down, runner down that way. But at the last second, at the last second, that runner has to determine where that fielder is going to go to avoid the collision. So there's a lot of pieces to this that I'm still.
Can you imagine having to decide which it's like that game I used to play. I don't know what it's called. It's like a memory game, but it's like a red, yellow, blue, green, and it goes like blue, green. You have to remember in order. Can you imagine having to remember, given like the number of outs, which one is live? I feel like you make them all live or all dead all the time.
Yep. Hey, you brought up a good point though.
What's that?
One of the proposals is for defining malicious contact.
Oh, okay.
The word malicious contact is in the book, but it's never defined.
Yeah.
How would you define it?
I mean, I think, and this is to your point, in the play I had a few weeks ago, I said, Coach, there was contact, but malicious to me is intent. I think there's two kinds of mistakes people make. There's maliciousness and then there's ignorance. Ignorance is, it just happened. I didn't see you. I ran into you. Then there's, I saw you. I saw you and I was coming at you. Yeah. And that's my problem when people go, oh, it's just baseball. Like people run into each other. No, like that used to be. And then we figured out there's these things called concussions and brain injuries. And we kind of stopped doing that. So we stopped letting 6-year-olds run into 6-year-olds. So I think it's intent. I think it's all about, and yes, that's still subjective, but I think it is about an intent to harm, period.
We are wordsmithing the proposed rule so far to try to minimize it to the lowest level of verbiage that we can. And I'll read to you what we are proposing.
Okay.
And that is that malicious contact is judged as the result of intentional and or excessive force with intent to injure a player.
There you go.
Now, the other thing is, how do you put in there about dislodging a ball? Can you have malicious contact while you're trying to dislodge a ball?
Well, let me ask you, is it legal to slap someone's glove to try to knock the ball out of it?
No.
If it's, okay, so it's not. But that infraction is different than a malicious, it's not an ejection.
But you could have malicious contact if you're trying to slap the ball out of
I got you.
Hitting him in the face.
Sure.
I'm not sold on the addition of dislodge the ball yet, but I know some other people.
So you're saying making this, including the act of as an example, including the act of trying to dislodge a ball would be counted as malicious?
If it's excessive or intent to harm, I don't know. I can't get 70% of the time that happens in any game.
It is interesting to me though, because if I'm trying to hit a ball out of a guy's glove, gloves are made to do one thing, Bob, hold the ball.
Yeah.
And so if I got to hit that thing hard enough, I got to hit that guy pretty hard. And I think we saw that in a major league game not so long ago. And the guy was running to first and he tried to hit that first baseman with his left hand. He really, I mean, he hit this is a grown man. These are amazing athletes, and he's running however many miles an hour, full steam. And he tries to snap, and I think he injured the first baseman. The next time up, he got a 90-mile-an-hour fastball in the back. We're not going to do that for the kids. But I do think if I see a kid or an adult, if I see him swing at someone, if I was just trying to knock the ball out, it doesn't matter. Guess what's underneath his glove? His hand.
Yeah.
So I'm probably, and again, maybe I'm a softie in this, but I'm more like, hey, if you try to hit a player, I was trying to hit the ball. Doesn't matter. The ball's attached to the player. It's probably malicious.
Well, 90% of these, 80%, whatever number you pick a number, typically happen at home plate where they come in and they bolt the catcher over and those elbows come up into their helmet and face and the glove trying to knock the ball out.
Yeah.
That I can see, but I would have intent to injure more so than to slap the ball out there.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you can't, you don't want someone who literally just try to hit the glove as they go by and you're like, you're gone.
Yeah.
That seems like that's ticky-tack, but that's why it's hard. That's why you got a job, Bob. Right?
That's why I volunteer.
That's why you get the big bucks / get paid zero.
Yeah.
So tell me about another rule that you think that you're excited about. You're thinking you only want to add rules because it makes things better. That's why if it's fine, you don't change it. So what else are you excited about?
I'm getting a lot of input on officials having a way to not eject a player for, let's face it, potty mouth are all over the place anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
And
because ejections often have fines, they have multiple games involved.
That's the major piece of the puzzle. It's different in every state.
Okay.
But if you eject a player in the state of Virginia, you lose 20% of your games.
Huh?
And 21 game schedule, that's 8 games.
You lose.
If you're ejected as a player, you lose 20% of your eligible games that you have on schedule.
Are you saying they automatically lose?
You can appeal it and stuff, but if you're ejected and the appeal is not,
you lose how many games?
20% of the games that are on your schedule. Even if you're halfway through the season, you would lose that.
So it's a percentage. I kept waiting for you to tell me a number. So I've got 20 games. I'm going to lose 4 games. Is that 20%?
Yep. And every state's different.
Whoa.
I don't know that it's any higher than that, but it's a big number.
So, I mean, here's my argument. This is an unfortunate, I think. It's unfortunate, but it's also a positive reaction. I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't, maybe I don't remember it. I feel like kids cuss in front of me. Again, maybe it's I'm becoming an older man and I just notice it more. I'm more easily offended. I feel like kids cuss more around me or on a baseball field, just sort of randomly.
Yep.
I don't know. You've lived longer than me, but it's more prominent.
Yep.
And as long as they're not cussing at me or another player, I generally try to ignore it.
Yep.
And most of the time they're not actually. Most of the time they're mad at themselves, or they even mad at another teammate. A lot of catchers cuss around me because I can't believe he blankety blank caught that or didn't catch that.
And that's the challenge that we're facing with it. We're hearing more and more, even at the college level.
Sure.
But even more at the high school level. And, I did a clinic this year and in talking with another prominent umpire, they mentioned that there's no place in the rule book that you can restrict a player to the bench.
Yeah.
There is one.
Huh.
Illegal substitution.
Oh, that's right.
That's it. Right. Even in the penalty section of Rule 2, it says restrict a coach to the bench. Huh. Never says player. Now, could that be a lesser penalty?
Yeah.
But here's the problem.
Yeah.
If he's in the game,
and
he drops an F-bomb.
Sure.
And everybody in the stands hears it.
Yeah.
Most of the officials, because of that, would eject that player. I'm proposing, in my mind, different from what the proposal is on paper right now, that the season umpire would go to the coach. Coach, you heard it. Everybody heard it.
Yeah.
If you don't take him out of the game and sit him for the rest of the game, he's gone. That means he's going to lose 4 more games
Right.
in the season.
Let's just say he goes, okay, fine, I'll sit him. And I think Patrick mentioned this on his show.
Yep.
You think he basically said that to a guy and he's only sat him half an inning. Patrick can't eject him the next inning
No,
based
he has
on
to
something
go.
that happened a half inning ago.
Yep. No.
So there's really no power to it. That's why we
Well,
have a rule book, right?
Yeah. The other issue is if he's in the game, Andy, and you restrict him, you've ejected him.
Yep. Yeah.
He's not going back in the game.
Yeah.
I'm not allowing him.
Yeah. It is an
So
ejection.
in reality, you have ejected him.
Yeah.
And the other point of the puzzle is it's unfair to the remaining teams that team comes up against if you don't eject him
Yeah. Under the old rule.
under the old rule.
You know, if it was a real ejection versus a different level. And again, I encourage you to listen to the episode that Bob had with Patrick, because he talked about, I think you mentioned it was different. Maybe you could have a different level, like maliciousness is that.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because I do think there's a huge difference between a kid cursing
Yeah.
and a kid trucking a kid.
Yep.
I really do think that there is a fundamental, even cursing at a kid.
Yeah.
And again, we can't have a rule for everything,
Yeah.
but I think we want to have a rule. What we don't like is gaps as umpires. We don't like to go, I don't like the fact that there's pitching rules, but they basically say, as an umpire, you're not there to enforce the pitching rules. I'm like, then why do they have the pitching? Who enforces them?
Yeah.
So that's a weird thing as an umpire to basically like, there's a rule, but we don't enforce that one.
Yeah.
Like it's a weird thing to say on a baseball field.
You know, the odd thing about it is I'll still go out and evaluate umpires.
Sure.
And I go, and the first thing I look is what's happening on the mound. Where's his feet? What's he having? Is he in the hybrid? Is he in the stretch? Is he in the wind up? Blah, blah, blah. You know what? For some reason, 2 innings into it, when they see that I'm there or I know somebody that's there, they kind of tighten the ship up a little bit, you know, and don't allow this or that. But
Really?
you know, and that's fine. I'm not looking to do a lot of things. I think they've helped out a lot. I still do think that when runners on base, that pitcher should have to declare if he's in the set or the windup.
I think what's difficult is when people are confused.
Yeah.
I think that when there's ambiguity, when there's a lack of clarity, that frustrates people. Hey, the umpire last game did this, and this game we do this. I like that people are pressing against boundaries and rules. I think that's just the nature of competition. And sometimes, like when they had the shift, that was just people adjusting.
Yep.
We have enough data now. We know that he hasn't hit to the left side since Reagan. You know what I mean? So we're going to shift, right? Okay, I get it. Cool. And then you adjust accordingly. I just think that it's frustrating when there's gray. People don't want gray. They want to be able to say, I can do this or I can't do this. And it's hard as an umpire when and sometimes even on the field. I had a situation last week where I was trying to explain to a kid, hey, when your foot's like this and your heel doesn't come up, you're in the set, you know, and so you can't take that extra step.
No.
And my partner goes, no, that's not how you explain it, in front of the kid. And I was like, okay, dude, you take it. But we want to make it simple.
Yeah.
Nowhere are we arguing how many balls should you get until you get a walk. It's 4 everywhere.
Yeah. There's one in here. And I have to admit, I'm looking for an answer. I got an interpretation from Federation and it didn't sit well with me.
Okay.
And it deals with a pitcher in a windup. And in his first rotation, he feints to home, brings his arm around, then throws to home in his windup without stopping anything, clear fluid motion. And
that's a gap in our current rule book.
Yep. Because it says with runners on base, you cannot feint to home, feint a pitch or to first base. Okay.
And that's not feinting because they didn't stop.
That's in a set position.
Okay.
With runners on base, you cannot feint to home.
That's what reminds me of in softball, Bob, you can't go around twice. You have to let go the first time.
Yeah.
And I think it's that same spirit, right? It's that spirit of, no, we're not going to try to figure out which time you move your arm forward, you're going to let go of the ball.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. The first time this was shown to me was in the state playoffs last year, and we got called every name under the book for not calling illegal pitches on this kid all day. I sent the video to the Federation, and the Federation came back, said, this is an alteration. And I said, an alteration from what? There's no normal.
Yeah.
You allow-
That's a weird gap.
I said, you're on a slippery slope there. Now take that one step further. If you're a pitcher and you throw overhand 3 innings in a row,
Right.
you throw one pitch sidearm, coming sidearm
Yeah.
underneath, are you going to call an illegal pitch on that?
So what's your take on it? It needs to be clarified that they have to throw on the first rotation?
No, the proposed rule, unfortunately, I'll say it, is my submission
Sure.
because of this, but I proposed that while in contact with the pitcher's plate,
Yeah.
pitchers may not feint to home plate.
And a feint is this
A pitch to home plate.
which is mean they can't do 2 revolutions, if you will.
They could. They're still allowed. I mean, you're still allowed to have 2 revolutions in the windup if you look at the definition of windup.
So weird.
Yeah.
So
So
weird, Bob.
it's,
So weird. Yeah.
you get all these people in the room, but when you say it's an alteration, boy, you're running a slippery slope.
That's the kind of stuff too that even like that word alteration, it's kids sometimes pitch differently with there's a kid on, or sometimes they glance back, or other times they aren't because there's a kid at second.
Yeah. I think the other one with the pitcher that's going to be big is delayed dead balk.
Yeah, let's talk about that. As
Many
we're
people
right
want
now,
that.
I get a lot of people listen to the show that are new to umpiring. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if the simplest version of this is when there's a balk that it happens, everything stops. It's like you hit pause, right?
Yep.
Everything- and we'll just kill everything.
Yep.
And while a lot of people upon first glance would say, oh, that's good, because what happens with the balk is there's runners on, and there have to be runners on to be a balk. They get a free base. And you think, what's better than a free base? And the answer is a double or a triple.
Or a home run in the ball game.
Yeah.
Analyzing the offense.
So if you have a delayed balk, then what you're saying is the offense gets to choose, do we want the balk or do we want the result of the play?
Yes.
And so now that as an umpire, this is harder to some degree because we have to let something happen.
Yep.
And then we have to have a conversation about what we want to, but it does penalize. And I actually have seen this before in the majors where a guy had someone on second and he balked intentionally because
move
he
them
wanted
forward.
to move the guy over because he was stealing signs.
Ill
That's
signs.
just an example of using it as the defense can use a balk to their advantage in that regard.
That's-
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
Correct. That's the main part. But we're a unique group. We actually have a gentleman in our group. He's not a voting member, but he comes every year, and he is called our historian. And just by coincidence, every year he kind of talks about some of the rules that we're going to be talking about changing.
Yeah.
This happened to be one of the rules, delayed dead balk, that he talked about
Yeah.
the history of it and why we didn't change it in the past
Yeah.
before we voted on it. And I had a hard time with that, to be honest with you, simply
Yeah.
because it influenced. And
sure.
his only statement was, it was easier to enforce if we killed it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't you train your umpires? Every other level
Yeah.
of baseball has it as a delayed dead balk. And if you're looking to keep the game fair, why penalize the offense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think about this one time. I feel like I don't know why I stopped something. I don't know if I think I did call a balk. And a kid ripped one to left field and would have scored a run. And I was like, oh, baseball gods, I don't believe in you or kind of believe in you. Please let this kid get another hit. And sure enough, he did. But yeah, that's it. You want to be fair to both sides. It's a
Yep.
weird thing.
That's our job.
See, this happens in football sometimes. People will take a penalty to benefit, they wanted to scoot back and have a better kick or scoot, it's how you play the game. I wanted to ask you something specifically there's one in here about uniform changes,
Yeah.
which as umpires, we don't really care. But
Yeah.
I was curious because it's interesting. It says school's name, school nickname, school logo, school mascot, or the player's name are permitted. How is that different? What's the change?
I don't know that there's names on
Okay.
players'
Okay.
shirts.
Gotcha.
And what the rationale with this is that it comes into compliance with other sports.
Okay.
They allow it in other sports.
Okay.
I think
Gotcha.
that is the main piece about it.
Yeah. 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 Let me ask you this in closing, and I guess I want to say we have to work within the systems that we're a part of. You don't like who's your congressperson, you need to vote, right? You don't like the way your HOA is doing something, you got to go to the meetings, right? Meaning if you don't like something, be part of the change of making it change.
Yep.
And I have found that it's easier to criticize than it is to be involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for those who criticize a lot, I would say do the harder thing, which is get involved. So every year, make a note, put it in your calendar, find survey about rules,
Yeah.
and fill it out. And that's my encouragement to everyone who has an issue here is
Yeah.
make your voice known in a logical way, and also make the assumption that the people on this board, and Bob, especially Bob, and whoever comes in your place, is they're doing their best.
Yeah.
You're trying, and I appreciate that. I applaud you for that.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to talk to you about it.
It's one vote. And I don't know if I mentioned this. The first year I was in, I looked at how many states had a good group of officials and coaches actually replied to the questionnaire.
Yeah.
In reality, there were 5 states out of 50 that were controlling the answers for the questionnaire. And that's what we were determining our rules based
I
upon.
mean, it's got
states.
Texas, Florida, California. I mean,
Bingo.
Yep.
And some of them don't even use the Federation rules.
That's like me voting in Guatemala's election.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So,
Andy. Thanks for the
I
vote.
applaud you for getting people to do that. And I've been pushing for our own state, and we've had a considerable increase. But I'm anxious to see this year when I see how many people really do answer that questionnaire. And there are several states out there that are doing tests on different parts of the rules.
That's cool. I like that.
Delayed dead balls down in Georgia, and they got some information on that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Some places in Nebraska and Arizona are dealing with having the pitcher also have the communication piece in his hat that he can hear the pitch.
Yeah.
But then just the catcher. That's on the proposal list this year to talk about that. So
Yeah.
I think we're heading in the right direction. I don't know how quick it'll get there.
Some things should go fast and some things take a
Yeah.
little time, and I understand it. So I have a funny little request for you.
Okay.
You're on your way out. So the president, when they're done, they do these pardons. They do these. So they're like, hey, listen, no one can fire me, and I'm kind of done, and so I'm going to pay off all my favors or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, actually, no, a guy got pardoned, and he went on and made a great life for himself, and he had turned his life around. It's kind of a cool story. But so here's a request I have, and I don't know if you know about this. So if you see this on video, everybody, I'm wearing reading glasses, okay? And I wear them for 2 reasons. One, I think they make me look smarter. True story. But number 2, my eyes are not as good as they used to be. I'm 47, and they're not getting a lot better. When I put them on, I can read really easily. My eyes don't get tired. When they're off, they don't. Okay. I have a legitimate issue, Bob. All kidding aside, the rule book itself,
I read it.
The rule book itself is small.
Yeah.
And I emailed them and I was like, I will pay you whatever money you want. I would literally pay $100 for a full size 8.5 by 11 NFHS book.
Yeah.
And instead, I'm just going to tell you what I did. You're my priest right now. Okay. I used to be Catholic. This is my priest. I took the app that I paid $10 for the book. I opened on my iPad. I took a screenshot, and I turned it into a PDF because it made it easier for me to read. Okay.
Yeah.
It was too small. And then on my phone, I can't change the font size.
Yeah.
And so here's my only encouragement. And again, I'll put this in email. You can send it to Mary at the home office. But they tell us to be in the rule book.
Yeah.
It's hard to be in the rule book when you're getting to be gray haired and you can't read it that well.
Yeah.
So I think that the rule book, that's fine. Charge me for the rule book, but I want a big, beautiful copy.
Yeah. My first job getting on this committee, every 2 years, being the official, I was in charge of writing the umpires manual over again.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what we did this year. We went to referee and had a little bigger with some better diagrams and stuff.
Thank you. We're bigger.
This is back in 22 that they had a simplified illustrated book,
Yeah.
high school rules.
Do you have an old one you
Great.
could compare it? We're on video, so those who can see. Do you have an old one you could hold it up to? The little ones?
This
That's
is
bigger.
22. This is the last one.
Well, but I mean, that's the one you just showed me, 25, 26. Those are bigger, right?
This is bigger. These are the same size now,
Right.
the umpire's manual, but our rule book compared to this.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That little guy,
Yeah.
the little guy can't
Yeah.
do it, man.
I think they're talking about moving this to this size.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh, the
And that-
elderly.
that-
Do
that
it.
could be- that
Do
could
it
be
for the
helpful.
elderly.
Yeah.
Now,
The
all
other
these
thing-
Asian countries honor the elderly, and in
This is
America, you're
well,
just throwing me to the wayside.
I'm
Right?
72. I got them too, brother.
I know, and I'm saying you want us to be in the rule book. I would like to be in the rule book without a magnifying glass, right? You don't want to put on your glasses when you're on the field, right?
I'll tell you
Saying
what,
to get ripped on.
the funniest thing I ever had happen to me on an umpire field was I was umpiring with an older gentleman. I was at first base. He happened to be at a pretty good school, and he called timeout. And he walks up to me, and I'm thinking, what in the world could
Yeah.
he to talk to me about? He said, Bob, you need to read the lineup card to me. I can't see the lineup card, and you're calling balls and strikes back there. Oh my!
Oh, that's
That
funny.
was funny. We still
That's
talk
funny.
about that today.
That's great. Yeah, I bet. So his outside corner was probably pretty big.
Pretty
Right?
big. He didn't read the Federation logo on the ball. Let's put it
No,
that way.
I didn't quite see the logo.
Yeah.
But friends, I want to encourage you again. I think the takeaway from this is one, these are real people who really love the game. They're doing their best. But two, if you want to be part of the solution, then be part of the solution. And that's give your feedback. If you don't like it, be the change you want to be, which is to fill out surveys and reach out to people that need to be reached out. Now, I'm going to release this as soon as I can here. Your meeting is in June. How can people reach out to you?
You're welcome to give them my email address, Andy.
Okay.
I hope I don't get 16, 17,000 emails, but I will tell you this, I got 5 on the way since Patrick just published his.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
and I'll look at them. I want information. I want
Right.
to support the umpires as to how they want me to vote. Understand I'm only one vote, but
Yeah.
the ones I feel deeply about, I will fight tooth and nail for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's really,
to make it
I
better.
appreciate that. And I think another thing that is, and again, I don't know if the NFHS will listen to this or not, or the one with Patrick. It's one thing to want your congressperson to vote differently. It's another to change Congress. I would say it is, and again, I have a very skewed perspective on this. It is troubling to me that we have one umpire vote on a rules committee. And maybe that makes sense. Maybe my perspective's skewed. And again, I don't want to be negative and complain about the system, but it troubles me to some degree that there aren't more voices saying, okay, listen, I get that from your perspective. Let me tell you the umpire experience. And listen, they may have valid points and you might have to just get over it and call it as you guys write it. But I do wish that there were, in the same, this is true across the board, Bob. Umpires want people to understand our perspective, and so few do.
Yeah.
So few do.
Yeah. And it's a hard job what they have to do to change. And I mean, they consider baseball's doing well, and I think it pretty much is, but there are some tweaks that really need to happen. And I think it's not just to make our job easier, but I mean, what kid wants to sit for 3 hours playing a game? I don't know of too many. They want the game to progress and move along. And I just hope that, I think it's happening. I hope that out of 37 this year, if we get 5, I think we'll be lucky.
Whoa.
I don't really think we'll get 5 rule changes this year. I can't tell you that, to be honest, but there's several of them that depend upon one that you could see 2 pages of rule changes. I hope that maybe I'd bank on 2 or 3, but I don't know which 2 or 3 they are.
I would be really shocked if the double base got approved because it's such a big shift for it, just from a player safety perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done softball before, and it's so rare to have anything go on at first.
Yeah.
And I like not having to cringe when there's a play happening. Anytime you're cringing before it happens and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
So we'll
And
see.
just clarification of, who's fielding the ball when the shortstop's throwing it from the other side of the infield because the runner's running on the line. If it's a good throw, leave it alone. Just leave it alone. But
Yeah.
we'll
Well,
see.
it's fun to go this deep into that conversation with you. Again, appreciate your service. Your reign has ended. But thanks for your time representing us. And let me know who the next person is whenever they decide that. And we'll start working on them earlier.
And if I can be of any help again, after it's over, we kind of stay pretty confidential what happens there in the room.
Yeah.
We have a number of companies come in and talk to us about bats and
Oh,
pitch
okay.
counts and this, that, and the other thing. But, after they're published in probably August or September as to what really has been
Right.
approved.
After the Watergate tapes have been released by Congress, so to speak.
Yeah, or the JFK tapes.
The JFK, yeah, we can, after
one
that,
of those years, you'll get
unredacted, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
After
Be glad to help, but feel free to give them my email address and I'll be glad to contact and answer as many of them as I can.
And let me say this, I'll end with this. I'm going to put your Bob's email address in the notes. I want you to send, if you have an email address and you have 30 seconds, I want you to do one or two things, and preferably the first one. Just email Bob and say thanks, because I think Bob doesn't probably get enough thanks. And to know that people have listened to this and say, hey, Bob, I got my opinions, but the meeting's already happened, but thanks for your service. Or, hey, Bob, thank you for your service. And number two is, you can email them and say, hey, here's my thoughts on maybe that change.
I'd love it. I'd love it.
But Bob, I'll save an email and just say personally, thank you. Thanks for representing us. I'm sure that maybe you probably shake your head a few times in those meetings going, man, guys, you really don't know what it's like to be behind the plate. But again, they don't. It's not out of malice. It's like the reality of that is very different from an umpire's perspective.
Yep.
So thanks for representing
I
us.
agree. You bet. Take care.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thanks for being part of the Best Umpire Show community. You can find more helpful content on our other social channels. We appreciate it when you leave reviews and share this show with others. If you've got a question, comment, want to be a guest on the show, or become a sponsor, reach out to Andy at theumpireshow@gmail.com. That's theumpireshow@gmail.com. Until next time, stay focused, stay fair, and always be ready for the next pitch.